everyone. So good to see you. And I'm very honored to be giving a talk as always. So I personally need some cushions to comfort myself with the week that we had. I hope you can do whatever feels right, that feels gentle for yourself as we were bringing our attention out from meditation space to, acknowledge everything that is unfolding around us and making space for acknowledging the pain, suffering, and blood. We had quite a week. Yeah, I'm not alone in this, right? Yeah. Thanks for being here with everything going on, and thanks for bringing your whole self into the practice. Yeah, just making myself comfy with my cushions, and I'll be giving a talk titled "How to Make Space for Both Anger and Compassion." So, as Cornell generously introduced me, I'm the Center Director of Dallas Meditation Center, honored to be serving that role. Week, I just got back from traveling, and the world has been unfolding in an intense way. So I like to list my intention for why I give a talk. And you may remember from earlier slides that Dallas Meditation Center values heart-to-heart connection and authentic conversation. So whenever I give a talk, my intention for pretty much all my talk during all my center directorhood has been that I want to create a space for connection. We're creatures that need connection, but especially during this time, this affirming the sense of connection is crucial, and that it will always be my main intention for all my talks. And for the latest talk that I give, I'd like to set an intention that I'd like us to co-create brave space, deep listening space, to discuss, acknowledge the experience of and of injustice that is unfolding in the world. I'll be talking more about the picture on the screen, and also our TV is pretty small, so if you're not seeing what I'm showing, don't worry, I'll be listing everything on the slides, and I'll be describing the photo. But this is from the protest that I was part of. My hope for tonight is that you'll feel more connected, supported, and centered at the end of the night, our gathering. So how to make space for anger, as I highlight that part. How to make space for anger. Who here loves feeling anger rising up in you? Like, does anyone like feel like you're in total control of your anger? Can I see a hand for those of you who's enlightened and I have dominated my anger? I'm enlightened and I have this completely comfortable relationship with my anger. All right, I'll take that as maybe no one. I'm not raising my hand. Absolutely not. And the cushion that I'm holding is it is okay to feel at the top, and it has all the emotions. And there's a little angry face over here. And this is a reminder of my own practice of trying to make space for anger and specific type of anger too. And here I will tell you my relationship with anger and how it has been changing, shifting, all that dance with my anger. I would say until my mid-20s, consciously or subconsciously, I avoided experiencing anger. I was one of those people who never seemed to get angry at anything, and I thought that was a good thing. someone who doesn't seem to get angry at anything. What's another name for a doormat? I was saying yes to everything, taking disrespect, and didn't feel much, didn't feel nothing. And I thought that was equanimity. I thought it was a good thing, spiritually good thing, personality-wise good thing. And I thought I was just a well-rounded person. But it wasn't equanimity in retrospect. The ways that I let disrespect slide, the way I let injustice slide, it was a form of dissociation. When I didn't have relationship with anger, it was a form of dissociation. It was a form of passivity. And in retrospect, I was letting myself and my close ones be disrespected under the guise of I'm never angry. Everything's cool. And some of the memories make me cringe, but at the same time, I give myself grace in that that wasn't a conscious choice to dissociate from anger, to be uncomfortable with anger, to not have relationship with anger. I considered it a forbidden emotion because I've identified a few roots from the help of therapy and self-reflection and meditation practices that brings awareness. And now that I understand myself as a collection of past experiences, conditionings, now I have a few ideas about why I was dissociated from the anger. Oversimplified spiritual teachings that stigmatize anger was one of the sources of my disconnection from anger. Emotional repressive family culture was another source of my dissociation with anger. So you might ask, in my earlier slides, like I wrote, consciously and subconsciously, I avoided experiencing anger until my mid-20s. So what happened in my mid-20s? That's when I truly felt the anger for the first time. And we returned to this picture of my students and United We Dream, a nonprofit organization in Houston, marching in DC. When I felt my anger come online was when my students I taught at University of Houston and other young folks with DACA status was put in danger, with their status being revoked, the threat of their status being revoked. And there, I first experienced what I experienced was sorrow, compassion, and love. And we hosted events such as storytelling events for those whose status was being threatened, that people who may not feel much reading the news about what was happening, we tried to bring affect as part of the conversation through storytelling events. And we led a peaceful marching events at DC, which is where the picture is coming from, and I covered all their faces because I don't assume that there's consent in the way that I show their faces, especially during times like this. And this is when my anger came back online in full, and it was pretty intense. Something about chanting together with United We Dream and people who are in danger. No paper, no fear. Sin papeles, sin miedo. In unison, allowed a certain energy to arise in me. At first, it felt like a deep sorrow that I was previously too afraid to feel. But then it started feeling like it was heat. Something animating, something mobilizing, something that actually helped me to connect with the voices that are chanting, truly seeing people that are walking with me. And like, oh my God, you feel this too. Oh my God, we're in this together. That deep sense of connection actually arose from anger coming back online. This is when I realized that there's a form of anger that arises from the protector within. And despite the various sources of discouragement that I received from feeling anger, once I started feeling the protector's anger within me, I started seeing it in more nuanced conversational spirituality. And I started seeing them in Korean Buddhist contexts. I'm from Korea and I travel to Korea regularly. So the protector's anger. So here I invite in the protector's anger into our heart as we acknowledge what is unfolding around us. And the image that I'm inviting in is that of Zunjang Chunhwan, who is the protector of the South. Korean Buddhist temples have guardian sculptures that are surrounding all four directions, and they all wear different forms of weapons and looks to them. And this particular one is really fierce, so I chose the protector of the South. And they're often depicted with bulging eyes to represent vigilance, and they're carrying weapons to protect the temple from evil. Zoomed into its face, this kind of fierceness, this protector's anger. And another image I'm inviting in is from a mural in the main meditation hall at the Yeongpyeong Temple in Korea. I mean, it's a really intense image if you see it in person. Imagine this entire wall painted with three-faced deity covered in dragons and carrying various swords and weapons covered in flame. That was the meditation hall in one of the temples that I was actually the meditation retreats at. And when I asked about what I consider to be unusual mural, like what's this about? Like this is really intense. It's kind of metal. The temple stay, which is how Koreans call meditation retreat, leaders said the mural is depicting Buddha raging at injustice. And I was like, what Buddha is that? The Buddha I know is the one who's looking peaceful, sitting on the lotus. I was like, it's Siddhartha Buddha. I was like, what? That's so unexpected, at least from the framework that I was used to, the image of Buddhism that I had. And I was really lucky that I was staying in the temple for a few days as part of my retreat, because I could spend time with this mural, and I was called to take in this mural and what it was teaching me. And the meditation time started at 4 a.m. And no coffee, no nothing present. And after some chanting, we were allowed to just meditate the way that we wanted to. And I made a point of first meditating in front of this mural. First my eyes closed, but then later with my eyes open, taking in each and every details to really take in this protector's anger, this anger against injustice, and what kind of wisdom this mural might be carrying. So this is a little larger picture that I took of the mural. It's also surrounded by various forms of other supportive protector. Buddha is the centerpiece, but they're all this support team. I must admit, I'm not super well versed in Korean Buddhist symbolism, but something about just experientially was so touching to see the many hands of enraged Buddha, how many different objects he was holding. There was something comforting in seeing him carry weapons, inflamed jewels, and riding tiger. Because to me, it seemed to portray a form of skillful anger that is being channeled into various forms of skills and resources that Buddha was offering to the world. And also that there was a team of protectors. Buddha wasn't acting alone, even though he was raging. There were a team ready to support. I'm going to spend a few seconds each to look at the details of sword, there's string, there's various forms of weapons and bell. Each arm have dragons wrapped around. Yeah. And to bring in more contemporary conversations about anger, I also wanted to invite in a book named Rage Becomes Her. And this one is by Soraya Jiyoon Lee. She is a feminist writer, and her discussion of anger also resonated with me, and I'd like to invite that into this space. Because I don't think we talk about anger very much in meditation centers or here. Yeah. She wrote, anger is an assertion of rights and worth. Anger is communication, equality, and knowledge. Anger is freedom, independence, expansiveness, and entitlement. It is justice, passion, clarity, and motivation. Anger is the demand of accountability. It is evaluation, judgment, and reputation. Anger is a confirmation and a wish. Anger is both powerlessness and power, palliative and a provocation. In anger, you'll find both ferocity and comfort, vulnerability and hurt. But anger is the expression of hope. If I were to add hope for something better, so I wanted to invite in this allowing of protector's anger, the anger that is a demand for something better and hope. Because anger is not a collapse, it's not accepting defeat, it's not acquiescing, thinking that it's not acquiescing to hopelessness. Anger mobilizes us. So when we make the space for protector's anger, what comes next? This is where I bring in compassion, how to make space for anger and compassion. So in the article, Growing Lotus from the Mud of Suffering, Plum Village monk brother Chanpa Lai reminds us that anger alone cannot guide us to right action. He wrote, of course, we all want lotuses in our lives. Lotuses might be happiness, love, harmony, peace. We really do not want the mud, anger, grief, jealousy. We do not want to believe that mud and lotus inter are. But a seed of lotus feels at home in the squishy mud. It simply needs to be open and grow natural, and growth naturally occurs. Likewise, the wisdom to transform suffering is already in us, waiting for the right condition. And this is the sentence that I wanted to emphasize. A lotus seed needs conditions other than mud, more than mud. Mud alone isn't enough. Anger alone isn't enough. Even if it is protector's anger, that alone cannot guide us. his article, he ends the writing, and this was actually a transcription of a talk. He offers meditation practice. But beyond meditation, I've been thinking about this the last sentence again and again as a form of question. A lotus seed needs conditions other than mud, more than mud. So what would it be? What else does our lotus seed need? So the mud of anger can be fueling, especially protective anger can fuel right action, but what else does it need? And it made me reflect on the many tools that enraged Buddha held. And a few answers came to me personally, and this will be the questions that I'll be posing to you in small group discussions if you would like to explore that. So I asked myself, what else does my lotus seed need? I want to transform this protective anger to right action, to actually protecting someone. What do I need? And the first answer was self-compassion, mindfully taking a good care of myself. And I particularly thought of nourishment and healing of 5 mindfulness trainings, which is Plum Village, 5 aspects of things to pay attention to, live mindfully. And this is a excerpt from 5 mindfulness trainings from Plum Village, the writings. It goes like this. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I'm committed to cultivating good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. So this passage encourages us to really look into what we are consuming and how that affects us. And for me in particular, I overconsume media, overconsume news in a way that sometimes I will get overwhelmed. And it's not doing any good to myself. I keep thinking that I'm trying to inform myself to the maximum. But with this context and framework, I'm doing poorly in terms of nourishing myself. So how can I mindfully pay attention to media that I'm taking in? I mean, there are studies about people who use a lot of difficult news or prone to experiencing depression. So how do I take care of myself? So I've been taking in mindfully media that shows examples of justice-oriented leaders. And one that I wanted to highlight was Dolores, and it's on Dolores Huerta. She is an equal partner in founding the first farm workers union with Cesar Chavez, and her story is so empowering. Her story is so encouraging, seeing what she could do, and also seeing her humanity. So consuming those media helps me, and this is one way I can take care of my lotus seed, allowing my lotus seed to bloom from the mud, and that's the nourishment that I'm giving myself. What else does lotus seed need to bloom from the mud? For me, is equipping myself with what I'm calling informed compassion. The wheel you see on the screen is titled Social Location, Power and Privilege. And the wheel depicts various types of, it has things like skin color, level of education, ability, citizenship, gender, language, social class, housing status, body size, physical location, mental health, all these various elements of our being that affects us, have a different relationship with the current power structure in a way that has different level of vulnerability in relations to what is unfolding at large. So to me, reminding myself and equipping myself to improve my literacy when I meet people, to be aware of everybody's varying degrees of vulnerability, and equipping myself with the lens, equipping myself with knowledge, how to support one another in a different way. That informed compassion is another that I believe that I need to let my lotus bloom from the mud of anger. And lastly, what I realize that my lotus seed need is kindred spirits. I've been meeting people, I've been going to new places because my small community isn't enough. My, like-minded friends, we all need to come together. And this is the time to come together. So I'm gifting myself a larger community with a trust that we are equipped to collaborate together, connect deeply with one another. And that's what I'm giving my lotus seed. So the flower can bloom from the mud of anger. So I'll close my talk portion and then we'll transition to small group conversation portion. And I wanted to read a poem by Dylan Thomas, Do Not Go Gently into Darker Mind. And I would say I've adapted a few moments. So if you're somehow like English major who memorized this poem and it's like, oh, I don't think that's how it goes. That's my little improv. So I hope you'll indulge me. So this is Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Mind by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise women at their end know darkest right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men and women and more, the last way by, find how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild people who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late, they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Brave people near death who see with blinding sight. Blinding eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my parent, there on the sad height, curse me, bless me, now with your fierce tears. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Thank you. Now we're transitioning to small group discussion. So at Dallas Meditation Center, we like to create a space for conversation. And I think of my talk as a departure point of, what came up for you and what else you want to talk about with people who are here and now. We would say deep listening is invited here. We pay attention to what goes through our minds and our body as we listen, as we give generous attention to the speaker. And we aim to be mindful about sometimes our habit is to interrupt someone in sometimes excitement, but perhaps letting the person finish their sentence and having a kind of organic energy back and forth. You can use bow in, bow out format, but if that's not organic, feel free to just use your judgment in mindfulness, in respecting one another and making space for one another. using your intuitive sense of time. Like, I think I've been talking for quite some time, or I think that person didn't get to speak. Use your judgment to make space for one another. And again, any practice at the Taoist Meditation Center is optional. If you prefer not to have this like small group conversation, please allow yourself. We have tea station in the kitchen. We have some snacks. Take care of yourself the way you see fit. And we are not limiting our conversation to these questions, but here's some conversation starters if needed. So questions such as, what came up for you listening to Jiyoon's talk? How is your relationship with your anger? What else does your lotus seed need? Which emotion jumps out at you when you look at the cushion? I'm going to pass this cushion around. So those are some options. And I noticed that group of 3 to 5 is usually a good size to have a kind of an intimate conversation. So look around, make eye contact, and feel free to move your meditation cushion as a split and form a new formation to have a comfortable conversation. And yeah, and see what happens. Often this space, I've seen a lot of wonderful, magical conversation happen in this space. So give it a shot if you're cold to. If not, take care of yourself the way you see fit. And around in 15 minutes or so, I will call everyone back with the big bell. So that will be the time to slowly, organically close the conversation. So enjoy one another's presence and see what comes up. Yeah.